What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode number 295 of the A2D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. Today's episode, number 295, of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast is entitled Broken Promises. And this episode comes again in response to a client I'm working with. And we were talking about going through the amends and how he was working on that step. And he said to me, David, I made a promise I couldn't keep no matter how hard I tried. I left my family hurt, and I left myself with guilt and shame. And now I'm struggling to forgive myself. I can't even believe that I'm worthy of forgiveness. What do I do about these broken promises? Well, that's a good start for us. And we've all heard the quote, don't make promises you can't keep. And I think that's because when we have broken promises, it also leads to broken trust. And it leads to damaged relationships. It can shred up the hope of our loved ones and friends, bosses, and even ourselves, and shatter the dreams of what the future might look like for people who we're in relationship with. So I think it's an important topic to take a look at, and I'd like to look at it by having some quotes and then just talking about each quote a little bit. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'd love to hear your feedback. The first quote is an anonymous, really old one, I guess, and it says, anyone who can't keep their word isn't worth a pile of salt. And as I researched this, it said it really dates back to the ancient Roman soldiers' time when they were paid in salt. So it meant that if you're not worth a pile of salt, you really have no value. And they were saying a soldier who can't keep their word can't be trusted to fight alongside of you, can't be trusted to have your back, or can't be trusted to be focused on the good of the whole platoon, the whole army. They'll lie to save their own skin. So that's the first one I'd like all of you to think about, journal about, and that is anyone who can't keep their word isn't worth a pile of salt. Are you that person, and how would you work to become someone who could be trusted to fight alongside of, and that people know you'd always have their back and you'd be looking for the good of everyone, not just saving your own skin? The second quote is from Althea Romig in a book called Consequences. And it says, he spoke again as if he hadn't just shattered his promise and her security. Her house of glass now lay in a pile of shards. Shuh. This one really speaks definitely spot on into the damaged relationship and shattered dreams. He spoke again as if he hadn't just shattered his promise and her security. So whose security are we damaging each time we tell a lie, each time we broke a promise? And who have we left with a house of glass laying in a pile of shards that they're even afraid to walk around in because shards of glass cut every time you step on them? That's the damage in relationships with broken promises. The third quote is from Chief Joseph, and he said, it makes my heart sick when I remember all the good words and the broken promises. And this goes back to the time when the Native Americans were being sent to reservations and all the broken promises that they got from the U.S. government at that time And it's really, to me, points out that broken promises don't feel like they ever had good intentions if you're the person who's damaged by the broken promise. And you also begin to question yourself by saying, why was I gullible enough to believe the good words at first? That's what makes my heart sick. And often this is our loved ones saying, my love for you, my desire for the best for you, put me in this position of being so gullible to believe the good words you were saying, even though you've broken promises again and again in the past. And I could just kick myself for believing them one more time. The fourth quote is anonymous, and it says, be slow to make a promise, not impulsive or emotional, and you have a better chance at keeping it. So if you're one of the listeners who says, I'd love to be past this where I keep breaking promises, I want to be that guy, I want to be that woman who keeps my promises. Here's a good little formula. Be slow to make your promise, not impulsive or emotional. So we have to think before we speak. We can't do this sort of knee-jerk stuff where we just say what our emotions are stirring in us at the time. We say what we hope the other person wants to hear. We're impulsively trying to make everything right and look to a bright future. And so we just say what our emotions are leading us to say, and we don't even think about what we're promising. Well, if we slow down and think through, then we have a better chance at keeping our promises. The fifth quote, and this is from Anton St. Martin, an author who wrote, actions prove who someone is. Words just prove who they want to be. If you want to know your true value in someone's life, mute their words and watch their behavior. I like this one. See, this ties into the actions speak louder than words, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. And it says, actions prove who someone is. Words just prove who they want to be. And I think this is key for people in recovery. Often we say what we wish was true without even thinking about it. We say where we hope to be in the future in our recovery as if it's really happening now because we've determined in our mind that we're going to get there. So we're not even intentionally trying to hurt someone by giving them false hope, but it's sort of being caught up still in the where we want to believe it, so we speak it. Almost like if we can speak it, we'll speak it into reality. But the key is how many people have reached that point in this quote where they're just sort of muting our words and watching our behavior. And many of us in recovery have heard those words, don't make me any promises, get 6 months clean and sober, get a year clean and sober before you can come back into my life. So I think these are 5 key quotes to think about this aspect of broken promises. And each of these quotes emphasize the importance of honesty and reliability when making commitments. We don't want to be people who create false hope or expectations. I remember when I was a customer service manager, one of our slogans on the wall was under promise and over deliver, because that could build trust of customers, that built return customers. We would set realistic expectations and then exceed those expectations. And the result was customers who trust us and customers who were satisfied. So I think it's important that we get into that mindset of under promise and over deliver, and also to be transparent. We have to get to the point of being upfront about our own weaknesses and doubts. because it's better to be upfront about our own limitations and in that way avoid creating expectations that can't be met. So all this points to the importance of a strong support group who you're honest and open and transparent with, who can work with you at becoming someone who keeps their promises and stops breaking them. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you were saying that's me as you listened, then it's time now to reach out and join a group. You can message me in the link in this podcast or by email at davidfromat2d@gmail.com, or go to my website, www.fromat2d.org, and click on the contact page. Keep listening to future podcast episodes, and as always, stay safe and stay resilient.